welcome to episode 3 of our Mashed podcast series, The Beer Farmers Mashed. Now, there is one thing that anybody watching will already have noticed, that there is a stranger in the room. And the stranger is Mr. John Obdenacker. Good evening, John.
Good evening, Mike.
How are you?
Yeah, good. Not too
Good
bad.
to see you.
After a little break.
It's been great. Yeah, it's not been great. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, but honestly, it was great. Just a little break from InfoSec wasn't too bad. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and it's good seeing you in good health. Your hair's looking great. I love your t-shirt.
Thanks, man.
I love the curl in the front of your hair. I think we can probably make some memes out of that. Before we start,
you guys want to go into your own private breakout room or what?
No, that's fine.
Yeah, it would be great.
Before we start with the podcast properly, though, John, tell us a little bit about what you've been doing this year, and particularly things like lame jokes and all that kind of thing. What have you been doing?
Well, I started very motivated. I wanted to write some blogs, and then don't mention the corona, but
turn your mic up, John, a little bit.
Better like this.
A little bit louder. You can shout if you like.
Yeah, okay. I will talk a bit louder. So, in the beginning of the year, I started very enthusiastic, writing some blogs, doing a lot of InfoSec stuff. At least that was what I wanted to do. More or less going on the road and helping non-tech, non-InfoSec people with improving their security. That was the plan. And then came Corona, a lot of other stuff going on. And then, like you said before we started, had a little surgery, and now I'm feeling like I have a little bit more energy and feeling more like doing some more InfoSec and good old times and joining podcasts and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's brilliant. It's great to have you back involved. While you work out how to turn up the volume of your mic, which is still too low.
Let me switch.
That's cool. I wanted to open up with a little bit what you mentioned there, John, which was around 2020, what a year, right? And we've gone from a kind of perceived understanding of normal, which was year in, year out. We go to conferences, we do talks, or we attend talks, we meet friends, we have a beer, we have food, have a great time. We've kind of had a great time this year as well. It's been completely different. But I wanted to get the guys in the room's take on what your thoughts are on how this year's been. And we're going to do probably another one of these at the end of December, but I thought it'd be really cool to just go around the room and get each individual's view. And I'm going to start with the people as I see them in my screen. So Sean, you're going to be up first.
Yeah, this year has been certainly something. So I've changed jobs. That's probably one of the biggest things from a personal level for me. Changing jobs in the middle of a pandemic is certainly interesting, especially going for an interview dressed up in a suit and then sitting in front of a webcam. Having an interview that way is, pretty unusual, but thankful nonetheless. And then also getting involved, so things like InfoSec Happy Hour, BRCon 2, those have been certainly highlights of my year. And I was actually going to mention this just to the group, but also in a year ending, and I probably will, but it's weird how things have worked out this year. I had some goals, and ironically, I managed to get those goals, but maybe not in the way I was expecting or hoping. But yeah, and it's been tough. I've realized that I've not been in an office the entire year. So that missing human interaction, I think the last person I saw was Ian at Abate. And yeah, that was the only event that I attended this year. And it's been tough from that aspect. I can't wait to actually see people face to face, like, touchy-feely, not just a webcam, and sit down and have a few beers, and that is going to be awesome.
Yeah, great. I've got a general question that I'll follow up with to everybody at the end of this. But John, what are your thoughts? Because you do conferences. You've been more probably at local conferences over in Europe. You did get over last year to a few beer farmers things. We did Leeds, didn't we? London, Manchester. What have you thought about the change from being, meeting up and having a beer and having a laugh and a chat and stuff, and to how 2020's been?
Yeah, I really miss it because honestly, online conferences, I think it's great. People have the opportunity, but it's not something I do a lot because my attention span is rather short, I think. And when I can go to a conference, it's like I watch 3-4 talks a day, and the rest is really socializing, having a beer, having a coffee together, and you're missing out on that, and that's a very valuable thing. Also, I can meet you guys and met a lot of other people in the UK community, and that's something I'm really missing because honestly, on Twitter or online conferences, you can reach anyone or you can see anyone, but it's not the same like we're having a virtual beer. It's can never compare to having this beer together in great company and like we did last year. So really missing that.
Yeah. Ian, your thoughts?
Yeah. It's been extreme. Like, that's the only way I could describe it, because it's sort of like everything was fine. Now it's not. Now it's lockdown. Now it's not lockdown, but semi lockdown with strange rules that don't seem to make sense. And then we're now going into a different version of lockdown with retail shopping. So, good news. I feel like the collective stress and bitchiness of everybody on the planet has gone up by about 3 notches. And the world political events that are going on right now with, the American dumpster fire experience. The good news is after this is done, unfortunately, we'll never look at America as the same place because of what has transpired over the last 4 years. And Joe Biden and his administration have so much damage repair. I almost feel like the best analogy, at least for the United States right now, is the scenes in Das Boat when they're being depth charged, right? Very unpleasant experience, to say the very least. But I mean, on top of that is something that I think is the one sort of ray of hope, a beacon of hope, a beacon of Gondor, if you will, is that the information security mission and values and outreach, unprecedented. To be fair to what John said and Sean said about missing our people, yes, hands down, absolutely missing, the mates and the link ups that have the physical conferences. But one thing that I think has come out of all of this is that information security and the general public, we've made ourselves a lot more accessible through these conferences. And I think that that is changing the dynamic of, rather than a very cliquish elite like Linka, we now have a broader audience, right? We have a lot of people that have a bit of an interest in the issues. And I feel like the virtual conference has reached a lot more people. And it's maybe the one thing that we're doing right as a group is being more inclusive, more diversified, getting our message out to the masses a little bit better, rather than sort of hiding in our 100, 200, 300 odd kind of fellowship and not really letting people in. So, like I said, it's been extremes for me.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. I will spring back around with that follow-up question in a couple of minutes. But Scott, what are your thoughts on this?
Pretty much the same as all of the above. Just to Glaswegiify it a little bit. I mean, I can't wait to get back into the pub and absolutely spray you boys with particles. Like, I'm looking forward to that. But it has offered a really interesting thing. So same as Sean. Had a ton of goals, had a ton of work, had a ton of ideas, prospects for this year. All of them went out the window in about March. But do you know what came along? What came along was you guys. Like, I wasn't a beer farmer before all this kicked off. I don't think I would have been if it hadn't been for this. Happier, and I met a ton of friends, really good friends. Went to a bunch of conferences. Besides Islamabad, for example. I mean, how often do you get to just wake up in your boxers and just turn on a screen and be at B-Sides Islamabad, and then
Or wake up in Islamabad, yeah.
or wake up in Islamabad. That could happen, to be fair. But how often do you get to do that? Like,
Pretty
I
cool.
miss the personal touch. I miss physically interacting with people, but it's a blessing and a curse. And I think we've done pretty well. But on the subject of like making us more accessible to the general public, you're right. I just think we've done a shit ton more than what we actually see. I keep using the phrase, it's really difficult to see the path of destruction when you sit in the eye of a storm. It's really difficult for us as practitioners to sit here and go, we've made such a difference when people are like, oh, cool, you've answered my question. I'm not going to, who are you, user 175? What did you find? That guy. Like, if you've answered someone's question, helped them out some way, they're just going to go quiet, go dark, and probably tell their friends and family, hey, turn on this. Make sure you got a VPN, do this thing, make sure you get backups. They're doing it, but we don't get any positive feedback of that. And I think actually I'm not going to use that particular word that I keep using, but just to back up Ian's point, I do think that it has a massive positive impact on our, as an industry, as a group, not the beer farmers, but as an industry, our presence with the general public.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think from my point of view, all of the above, again, I think one thing that's been really key that I've worked out is that we are resilient, and not just as people in the information security community and industry. We're resilient as humans. And what we're able to do is look at the problem and work out alternative ways of dealing with the problem. So earlier this year, we could have gone, well, the conference year is dead and forget 2020. Let's write the year off as being a failure and forget about it. Hopefully next year will be better, etc. But no, we didn't do that, did we? And what we did was work out innovative, different approaches. So it's virtual conferences, it's meetups. We just moved it all online, without forgetting that it's not the same when you're not in person with people and you can't physically interact with people. But trying to keep the spirit the same and the purpose of what we're doing, and whether it's, again, an online conference or just catch-ups, DEF CON catch-ups, they've been happening, and it's about keeping people connected and keeping the information flow happening, keeping people sharing stuff and making new friendships. Happy Hour was an amazing example of a bunch of people that didn't know each other just going, oh, I've got nothing better to do on a Friday evening, let's get involved with this. But out of that has become a lot of great relationships, friendships. And actually, probably out of Happy Hour came a lot of the contributions that then came to become BeerCon 2. Because many of the people that were involved in the former were also involved in the latter. So I think that's been my take on the year. But I can't wait to get back to Bar Napoli in Edinburgh, and have that big old steak and have a beer, a glass of wine, whatever, with people. Other beverages are available. Yeah, why not? But I'm gonna ask a follow-up question now. I'm going to reverse it around the room, and the question is now: what about the next 12 months? What can we expect? So, what do you expect to see based on what we know and what we can expect? And of course, the caveat is, of course, we have no idea because we don't know what the next bloody week, month's going to look like in the world around the pandemic and things. But assuming things get better and we do get back to some sort of semblance of normality, Scott, what do you reckon 2021 might look like?
I think it's going to be really interesting to see the amount of employers that previously said, I don't trust my staff to work from home. I don't trust my staff to be able to do this. And now they're forced to do it. And they're going, hey, we're experiencing a slight productivity dip, but not anywhere near 50, 60% productivity dip. We're experiencing 5%. And we're making that up over the weekend. I think we'll find that shit. I think we'll find that a lot of conferences now will be going, okay, we'll do a hybrid model. We'll have people face to face in the flesh, but we'll also go for the online route because there are benefits to that. There were a lot of people that said, I feel really nervous about turning up to a room full of people that I don't know. I fucking love that shit personally. because I don't shut up. So it's perfect for my my own ego. But for a lot of people, it's like really intimidating to walk into a room and don't know anybody. So I think that would definitely help. I think there's going to be a lot of good that comes out of this shit. It's just we're almost at the end. We just need to nudge ourselves over the line. I don't think it's helped that Christmas is in the way, because that is the time where you traditionally see friends and family. So everybody's thinking about that and getting really kind of really sad and depressed, which really sucks. But I think the outlook for 2021, from my point of view, is really positive. We've already seen massive changes within not only our industry, but every other industry that even comes close to us, trying to go, hey, we can do this. We are now empowered. It's kind of like Toys R Us suddenly realizing, shit, the internet exists. Fuck, we can sell a ton of stuff there. It's kind of like that, but just a bit quicker than Toys R Us.
And still in business, hopefully, unlike Toys R Us. Ian, your thoughts?
Yeah.
What's next?
I think there's going to be some high risk shows. I think the smaller shows will come back, but it's going to be expensive not because the venues are going to be hurting, because obviously they'll be willing to do a deal, but I think you're going to see a lot of event cancellation insurance policies, because I think there's a sense that the rug can be pulled out at any moment for any reason. And if the pandemic showed us one thing, it's that, there is some truth to the idea that diversity is resilience. And some industries that vertically specialized and were very, very specialized in what they did, like the cruise industry, for instance, had just been decimated. So, there are going to be, in the next year, I think we're going to see a lot of casualties on the field. I think, I've spoken about commercial real estate being way over leveraged, and the fact that city centers now are going to be kind of DMZs. Like, there's not going to be a lot of people in there at all. I also feel like we're going to see a return to the country. I think natural space is going to be at a premium. And, I agree 100% with Scott that the work from home idea is no longer, it's not a fad. And in fact, I would argue that things like work from home are the very definition of resiliency for organizations. So I think the paradigm shift will be massive for our industry. I think we're going to see, again, a huge emphasis on basic security literacy and understanding, and improvements. I don't think, because so much of what we do now is online, all the government services we need, all the financial information that we need, financial services, the internet is now the critical service in the developed Western world. And quite literally, I almost feel like we're going to see the rise of internet is a human right, because of all the things that are dependent on internet access.
Yeah, good points. A slight follow-up before I ask John for his thoughts. You're a veteran of DEF CON. What about DEF CON? What could we expect that to look like?
I don't know. I think they're going to try. I think there's two things that came out of virtual DEF CON. One is, like I said, the accessibility aspect that Scott talked about. I think there about people that are uncomfortable showing up to Las Vegas, and ending up having to kind of hang out with 25,000 other weird people. I think that's a factor. I think in-presence events attendance will start to build back, but by no means will it be a bounce. But I think virtual and online is required now. And interestingly enough, DEF CON pioneered this with something called DEF CON TV, which they take over the hotel's in-house TV broadcast and broadcast all the talks to people's rooms. And I think they did this for a couple of reasons. One was There are some people that go to DEF CON purely to compete in the CTFs and all of the other type of physical and cybersecurity aspects, and they want to do it like not in the middle of the screaming masses, right? And so they're, you know, locked up in their room, and they're using the sliding doors for the balcony that don't ever open in Vegas, and using it as a giant whiteboard to tackle crypto problems. And so they never would get outside their hotel room for, you know, the 4 days of the conference. But then there are also people that maybe are super uncomfortable in large crowds or feel awkward because of disabilities and things like that. So I think virtual is here to stay. And I think what 2019 or /2020 has really shown us is that it's a valuable component of a cybersecurity event.
Yeah, cool. John, your thoughts going forward?
Well, it will get better. Let me predict that. I'm quite sure. For me, I'm setting just. I'm surviving until spring, and then things will go better. You know, but I had to set a goal for myself, and I think that that's a good thing to do. That's personal. But on the other hand, I think we will see indeed a mix. I think what Ian said was very true. What Scott said as well. And for me, I will prefer the in-person conferences, or I will still try to go to the conference if possible. So let's see if I even can enter the UK when Brexit is finally arranged. No, but I don't need a visa, I hope, so that will be fine. But honestly, I think there's a lot said, and what Ian said was, yeah, the resilience. That's a very important one, because now I could already work from home several days a week, but now, yeah, it's full time, and yeah, it works pretty good. I mean, I miss seeing my colleagues, of course, but for instance, you could easily work 4 out of 5 days or 3 out of 5 days from home, and that would be very good, I think, because now they notice that productivity, even in the company where I work, is really good. People performed really well. Of course, there's a big impact of COVID, but still they see that people work really well when they can do it and from home, and then with a good work-life balance. Was not the case in the first lockdown when the kids were at home, but nowadays it's more easy because the kids can go to school, and I think that it showed that it really works. And then I hope we can continue on that path and not go back to how it was before.
Yeah, fine. Sean?
So Twitter dramas will still continue.
100%.
But
I got 5 Bitcoin on that.
On the notes about remote working, I don't think it's been touched. The other thing about remote working is it suddenly opens up your opportunities massively. So where you may have not applied for a role in the US or somewhere in Europe or whatever, wherever you're based, suddenly a lot more opportunities are arising as a result. And I think more of that's going to happen. We constantly hear about the information security shortage and that, whatever your views on that, if there is or if there's not one, remote working will certainly help with that. You can now expand or cast your net to the entire globe, essentially. There are some logistics in that, but overall, they're a lot less than actually trying to find someone and you can't find them. So I think that's going to help a lot, especially if you're in a region where there's not much of a feed in. I'm thinking more towards the States, where some areas in the state, there's very little in terms of people who can actually come into the office in some areas. The conferences, I think the very first conference is just going to be a wild night. The very first one. But yeah, I think as soon as the conferences open up, I expect like a lot of people to maybe a bit hesitant at first, maybe because of the whole, is it still around? Is it still risky? But like once people are comfortable, I expect at least a large number to at least venture out and attend some of the conferences. Yeah, I think that's it.
Have we found? It's a general question, really. Have we found that on the matter of work-life balance, have you found that your hours are just not what they used to be anymore? So you maybe did a 9 to 5 job, or if you're maybe a SOC analyst role, it's a shift pattern, whatever. But do you find that you do it from the moment you're awake till the moment you go to bed? Because that is a big thing that I think a lot of people are finding. It's that lack of delineation between work and not work. I know in our industry we're kind of alert to stuff all the time, but there is that risk, isn't there, that now that you're permanently working from home, you don't stop.
Yeah, for me, it's better now because I was only used to work a few days from home, and then it was more of a that was more unclear to stop the day, let's say. And now when I work full time from home, I can do that pretty well. Not sometimes I have some things to do during the night, but I try to draw that line, let's say, and just like I would go to the office, try to close my day. And obviously, if the kids are home and then you have dinner, and then that's the normal pattern. But don't forget, at least in my case, I had 1.5 hour travel time, which is not very much, but that's also time you can spend working instead of being in the car or public transport. So it's more efficient, and I had to learn to stop my day, but it's a pitfall, I think, for a lot of people.
The biggest thing that I can talk, because I've been working from home for numerous years now, have a dedicated work area. It's an area that you can say, right, I'm done with work, I'll leave it. Be it if you have a spare room, awesome. I realize some of you don't have that. So even just a desk somewhere that you can say, that is my work area. When I'm finished work, I walk away and I leave it. That's the one key piece of advice I can give for working from home.
I'm the same as Sean. I've worked from home for more years than I care to admit. And that work-life balance, I missed it the first time. You know, I would use my laptop, I'd lie in bed, I'd lie on the couch, I'd lie in the kitchen, I'd sit at the kitchen table and just do work. Who gives a shit, right? It's comfy. You know, I'm right beside the coffee machine, or I can have a smoke or whatever. Yeah, that grates on you 6 months down the line when you don't have that delineation. When as soon as you pick up your laptop, it feels like you're working, or you're eating dinner in a room that's basically your office. It just trashes your mental health. So yeah, when we looked at houses, it was like, I need an office, I need a 2-desk office, because, you know, at least it gives you the opportunity to have what I have, where we can both work at home and then literally shut the door and walk away. And that's it. And if I choose to come up here and play a game or jump on a Zoom call for like 9 hours on a Friday night, that's my choice, but I get to walk away from it. On the Saturday morning, I'm not coming back. I don't come back into the office purely because there's usually like a treasure trail of like empty beer bottles and Marmite jars and God knows what else, and handcuffs and keys, and, you know, there's stuff everywhere. But that being able to shut off, so fucking important. But I can't stress, just to add on slightly to Sean's point, I can't stress the amount of people that overlook good equipment, i.e. a good chair, a good desk, a good area, some good lighting, just even a proper bulb. Like if you're working at like 20-watt lights, it's going to be like teeny weeny Strano vision, or you're working off a CRT monitor that's really shit. It's going to make you just buy a decent monitor, buy a decent desk, even secondhand. It will make your life so much easier, and you'll be able to turn off because you'll be like, yeah, I'm not using that for browsing Pornhub later. Or maybe I will. Like, it's your choice.
And neglecting Pornhub for one moment, the points you made there, Scott, are absolutely spot on. And if you're working from home because your employer has put you in that situation, that circumstance, then don't be afraid of asking your employer to kit you out with this stuff. You know, they may see it as their responsibility to give you equipment, IT equipment, and a VPN and a laptop and desktop or whatever, and monitors. But actually, you know, we didn't choose any of this. It chose us. So, like you say, Scott, a chair that's comfortable, desk space, They might push back and go, we can't afford it. Fair enough. But ask the question. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Because we're all trying to get through it. It's about, again, the key word, we've mentioned it a few times, resilience. But we can't just do it ourselves. We need a little bit of help for it. I've been through 5 pairs of these. And it's a HyperX headset. It's pretty good. It's a gaming headset. But the problem is that the microphone boom here is just a little bit too easy to switch up. And it's got a micro switch built into it. And the more times you do that, which you do it without even thinking, the more stress you put on the micro switch. And eventually the micro switch says, fuck you, I don't work anymore. And therefore your microphone is off, broken. Yeah. And these are about 55, 60 pound headsets. And I'm on my 5th pair. But get your employer to contribute, because the reason that I'm wearing this like 8 hours a day is because I'm in meetings to do with work a lot of the time. So, yeah. Anybody want to add anything before I move on to our next topic?
Just one thing. If you are forced to work from home, you can claim tax. It's like £6 a week or something. Yeah. If you Google tax work from home, there's a form that you fill out. You don't need to send in your receipts and that, but it's only if you are forced to work from home. It's not your choice, and if you don't do your self-assessment. Yeah,
I got something to add on that. So I think you need to have a couple things. One is you need to have something that isn't work that you enjoy doing. So that is, I'm going to say, the distraction. Something that you look forward to doing after hours or even during the day on breaks. Now, what I've noticed about myself is that I tend to now work in sprints. I'll get up sometimes at 5 in the morning if I can't sleep, and I'll work, until 3 in the afternoon. And then I'll have a nap, and then I'll jump on and do something else. So I found that the whole concept now for me in terms of like being on at 9 and off by 5 doesn't work. One of the aspects of my job is creative insight, thought, strategic planning. That's not something you can just kind of sit down and do. You need to have a sort of the right mental place, like Scott and Sean talked about, but also I've spent a lot more time going outdoors, going for afternoon runs, not nearly as far and as fast as John. But I found that you need to break it up because if you want to go and do quality, you can't be all like stressed out. You can't be all like super tired. You really have to pace yourself, especially when you get into the higher parts of the towards the end of your career, where people are paying you to solve really tough problems. Not maybe on the technical side, but on the business side, or looking for insight in things that are really difficult to tackle. So, that's sort of been my experience so far.
Good. Before we do tackle the next subject, we have a question, and the question is from fucking bastard, aka funking bar steward. So again, open to the room. How, in your view, has the threat model changed, or the threat landscape changed, with organizations now having their workforce predominantly at home?
Completely. Yeah. So it wasn't really the whole, let's move our people all to at home. It was more around the lines of, oh my God, if we move all these people to home, these are the business services that we have no idea if we have enough bandwidth, capacity, VPN licenses, 2-factor authentication. Like all of these plans that IT had were basically like, yeah, that's nice. Now you're going to be remote access. And what we've seen is exactly those mistakes, if you will. So, back in the day, I would say a lot of businesses sometimes ended up putting development environments on the internet in order to facilitate developers, third-party developers or contractors from getting access to it. And sometimes it was done by just putting RDP out there. Now, the cyber criminals and APT actors are just looking for that They have a tool called Shodan. And when they find that, they're going to do a free pen test for you. Unfortunately, you don't get a report, you get ransomware. And so a lot of this was, I would say, a real forced digital transformation, and the resulting vulnerability and risk models were completely thrown out the window in favor of, and maybe rightly so, in favor of basically Noah's arcing the business, right? The business had to stay in business. They had to keep going. They had to adapt. But man, some businesses that just threw RDP open to the world and VPN open to the world without access control lists have just gotten murdered. And so I think the threat model is not so much really about, the cyber criminals getting a whole lot better. I think what happened is we put a whole lot more vulnerable shit on the internet because we kind of had to.
I just also add to Ian's point, like, also bear in mind, if you're in the office and you have something wrong, you normally go run up to Joe Blogs or whatever, your IT person or your security person, and go, oh my gosh, this happened. What must I do in that? We're missing that now. How do you communicate? So say, for instance, I have a issue on my computer. How do I get hold of someone in IT or the security person when my computer is no longer working or doing really bad things? So I don't think many people have even thought of that. So yeah, one way around that is make sure that there's a number that your employees know to call if there are any suspicious activities, because you also just sometimes don't want to alert the attacker.
Yeah, it's true. In our example, I guess the challenges have been providing equipment to people off-site, so remote working. We've not allowed or enabled BYOD, apart from mobile devices, to access email and things. But for the core business operations that we've got, we've provided all members of staff with actually on-site IT equipment, computers that are VPN enabled, and they have no access to any business systems without being accessing it through the VPN. The challenge there is, of course, keeping those machines up to date and remote patching, making sure that, luckily, from our point of view, you can cartwheel your way into Linux if you wish, but from our point of view, we're predominantly a Windows environment, which makes it slightly easier perhaps, but we still have to make sure that the machines that we're looking after and managing are sufficiently patched and kept up to date. And we have people taking card payments, so there is a PCI DSS concern there. We need to make sure that people are properly educated and aware around the things they should be doing around card payment data and not doing. But to some extent, it's not that different to being in the office. The same rules apply in many ways. The things that you shouldn't do in the office or things that you shouldn't do at home are the same things you shouldn't be doing in the office. So it's more of an IT concern around access and access control, Ian, to your point, making sure that people have got access to the things they need to have access to. And there isn't a cross-pollination between the things they shouldn't have access to and the things they should. And that's been a big challenge for us. And that's probably the longer forecast over the next 12 to 18 months, is making sure we maintain that, I think, going forward.
I think on what you said there, though, like, I was going to say something else, but I think it's nice to continue what you just said. Referencing back to what Sean said about, you can claim this much for electricity, keeping on top of users to keep up to date with patching and, update your OS overnight. We're going to, you could easily influence that, nudge theory. Hey, we'll pay your internet bill. One of the conditions is you need to tell us, you send us an email, I've updated, I've done this thing, I've done all my updates, whatever it may be. Yeah. And that would be the perfect way to keep people safe at home, because that is one of the biggest challenges. Because what I'm seeing, and I'm talking about this from a small to medium business point of view, with a lot of small to medium businesses I talk to, is yes, they are throwing a lot of their stuff online, like just RDP to the world, admin, straight in. But they're being a lot quicker at resolving stuff or reacting to stuff now, and then realizing the value in, oh shit, you were right. We do need a disaster recovery plan. We do need failover. We do need resilience. Oh shit, that old server 2003 that we've got. Yeah, we really should look to update that and put in proper cows. I know it's expensive, but we really can't risk being GDPR up the arse, basically. Just the amount of fucking money we could lose. This is they're starting to think and go, oh shit, yeah, you guys actually were right. You weren't doomsayers or Project Fear, I think is one of the common phrases. You were actually fucking right. I think we're going to see a lot of that shit.
Yeah. Well, the good news to your original point there, Scott, is if you work for my company, you already get free internet.
Oh,
and why wouldn't you, given that we build the internet?
Internet.
We sell the internet to people. But I think the challenges are pretty basic. If you're in the office, then we encourage staff to turn off your computer at the end of the day. And there are reasons for that. One is it saves power. That's great. Really important.
Sure.
Second is it means we can apply patches. A lot of people don't get that. Well, if my computer's off, how can a patch be applied when my computer's switched off? Well, actually, we applied the patch while your computer was on, but it'll stick once we've rebooted your computer, and that's the logic behind it. So it's at home. It's getting people to just do that basic stuff, like turn off your PC, turn it off. The next time it comes on, the patch will be there, and it'll be working.
Yeah, and honestly, I as the security guy had this experience 2 times that I didn't turn it off, and then in the morning when my 8 hours of snoozing was over, and I had to start a meeting, then my machine rebooted. So I learned my lesson. So yeah, you can. What Mike says is very, very true. You can all do that quite easily, and problem is it comes with maturity. Like what Scott says is very true as well. And as a me, yeah, of course, security, it's mostly an afterthought after a ransomware attack, or maybe when something else is going wrong and the backups are not working. But yeah, for a large company, you may hope that they have at least basic security stuff in place, and then it's the shift towards working from home en masse, everyone at once, which is a big shock for a lot of companies. But I noticed that it went quite well. I mean, there were some problems in the beginning, but once we were like a few weeks, a month further, it was working really smoothly. And then it's mostly practical problems, like Ian mentioned, VPN licenses, stuff like that. And this is something that, if it's needed, it can be arranged quite quickly. Yeah. Otherwise, they wouldn't buy extra licenses, but now they will, and because the need is there. So I think it's a good push for a lot of organizations to take the next step. At least I hope so, and hopefully before they get owned. So,
agreed. Sean, to your point about the idea of going and having a conversation with a colleague, a technical colleague, or in your IT services, or in your security team. Personally, I found it a little easier because people now just ping you a message, and they do it. Hi Mike, quick question, or sorry to bother you, or when you're off the call, can you just give me a quick call on Teams or whatever your platform of choice is. So for me personally, I found that to be a little bit easier than perhaps in the office, where people would get actually up off their arse and come and have a conversation with you. But that's just my experience. But yeah, it's not going to be everywhere. I just want to answer a question.
I can take this one, Mark, if you don't mind, because I have been affected by this.
Sure.
So some organizations have agents on your work device that performs a scan. Now, there's one agent, Qualys, that basically doesn't give a shit about boundaries, and it'll go off and scan everything on the network. And I know this because my work laptop, before COVID, I was getting reported vulnerabilities against my IP address because it works with scan and IP address on things that I never even had on my laptop. And it transpired that the agent on my laptop was scanning my home network and reporting things on my home network. So yes, it's often not intentional. It's just the way the product works. The products are geared towards a corporate environment, corporate network, where you probably do want to scan everything on it. They don't say, oh, okay, well, this person's working from home, so I'm not going to scan the network. So it's, if you can't get a VLAN, get a router where you can create a physical barrier. Routers aren't expensive. You can pick some up for like 20, 30 bucks, where you can actually plug in an actual network into a WAN. It does take a bit of setting up, so maybe tricky, but it is possible. It's not that costly. And then that way you can guarantee that it's not going to scan your entire network.
Yeah. Yep. Great answer there, Sean. Another question from Hale Nolly, addressed to me directly. So how do we asset management, or how do we do asset management when pushing kit off site to people? I guess luckily our organization only has a relatively small number of people. So we're talking the mid 400, 500, 600 max people. He said guessing a number there, which suggests he has no idea about asset management and the number of users on his network. But it's not 50,000 people. It's not, it's not thousands of people. It's nothing of the sort. But cataloging machine identifiers, attaching the machine identifiers to our asset management platform, ensuring that those machine identifiers are then included in our access control platform. And that's pretty much how we do it. So it's a combination of things like Active Directory, things that I'm not going to talk about because I'm not revealing that technology to people publicly. And that's how we do it. So we know that a device is ours, and we know it has business being on our network or in a VLAN on our network. And if a machine lands on our network, then it gets asked a question before it can get an address on our network. And that's how we go about doing it. So we've got a reasonable level of confidence that the equipment that we've got out in people's homes remotely are things that we put there and that we trust. And we have levels of scrutiny and control in place to make sure that they are the machines they are the droids we're looking for. So that's the answer to that question. Any more points before we move on to Donald Trump?
I just want to say asset management, trying to convince small businesses they need asset management. It's an absolute clusterfuck. This idea that you scan a network and you see 500 iPhones suddenly pop up and you're like, there's only, let's say 100 people that work in the building, but they've all got like their current iPhone that were given to them for work and their own iPhone. It's all in the same network. You walk into any small business that's never had a tech person, you're going to get 500 Sean's iPhones, and there's like 10 Sean's that work in the building, all the same spelling. You're like, what the fuck is this? Is this a work device, a personal device? Do I need to kick it to a separate VLAN? What do I need to do? Can I, we don't even have like MDM, so we can't even like roll out apps or certificates or even local certificates for local services, whatever's going on in the building. That is a fucking problem. Trying to get people, I keep mentioning this to you guys, like there's like really tiny one man band. You don't really need very much apart from your own little setup and maybe something like what Sean said, kind of basically a home lab setup to just kind of segregate things. Fine. And then there's like medium-sized businesses to large-sized businesses. There's this massive divide in the middle where they don't realize they need asset management. I realize I'm going on a tangent, but it is important because it does my tits in. They don't realize that seeing iMac on the network times 500 is a problem for anyone managing that, because there's no way to report serial numbers. MAC addresses cycle now for most laptops, desktops, phones, tablets. They all do cycle within a varying degree. There's no way for me to go, okay, that is definitely the iMac that is upstairs. There's no serial key that's reported. There's nothing like that. All I can see is the traffic that's coming from it and going, is this meant to be here or not? So if you know a small business that's out there, convince them to do proper asset management, proper tagging, proper naming of devices, get shit in a VLAN, set up a guest network, yeet the shit you don't understand, and wait until someone screams at you to add it back in.
Yeah, agreed. And use the technology available to you. So you don't necessarily have to go out and spend a lot of money on doing the right thing. So if you're already leveraging Microsoft 365 and you're already using the security level licenses, E5, for example, use the technology. So you get MDM, you get conditional access policies that are relatively easy to set up. So you won't have 5 Scott's iPhones. That will just not work if you do it that way. You can do things like Microsoft's Advanced Threat Protection, whereby you'll have incoming screening of things like attachments and emails. It sounds really basic, doesn't it? But dead important. Microsoft will screen URLs in incoming emails. They'll effectively virtually click them for you and make sure that they don't route out to a malicious endpoint. All cool tricks that are in there as part and parcel of the technology. So if you're on the 365 platform, go away and look into all the toys that come with that, because it's immensely powerful. And as we all know, BEC, business email compromise, is still one of, if not the biggest vector that we see in terms of firms getting popped and individuals getting done as well. And even if you're a domestic consumer of Microsoft 365, you get access to a lot of background protection that you're probably not even aware of. So yes, and I don't work for Microsoft, in case anybody wondered.
It's, Mike, I mean, to give you an example of, you're in the pub and a couple of folks rock up to you, right? And they're going to start talking shit to you. And it'll go one of two ways, right? It'll end up in a fisticuff, or it'll be de-escalated. And the parallel between these two is not embracing the multi-factor authentication features of Office 365 versus having those features in place. Because as you are well aware, as all of the beer farmers are well aware, 99.9% of the attacks on Office 365 were thwarted by the presence of two-factor authentication. And those attacks were not conducted by mere script kiddies or skids. They were conducted by advanced persistent threat actors. So that to me is like asking for a punch in the face in the bar if you don't have multi-factor authentication enabled.
Yeah, 100%. 100% agree. All right. Chris Krebs.
Yes, the thorn in Trump's backside.
Yeah, so we'll talk about him for a few minutes. So Chris Krebs is the former Chief Information Security Advisor for the Trump campaign. A loyal servant, like they all were.
Actually, I'm going to correct you. Not for the Trump campaign, for the United States government, Department of Homeland Security, CISA, which is the cyber intelligence sharing and analysis center. So he's the guy when it comes to cyber of the US government.
Right. So thank you for correcting me with Steed. So a pretty important person. But under the support and employment of the president, of the outgoing president. And when asked, he said, and it was, if you've not watched the interview, then we'll share it out later. But he was asked about the efficacy and endurance and honesty of the election campaign. And he said, that's the most secure election in American history. And got fired. Donald fired him. So 2 points. Point one is Chris Krebs follows John.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Well, I
Brian
follow John
Krebs
too.
I don't know why, but
the other
He's in it
Krebs,
for the lame jokes.
Brian Krebs follows me. So there are two important Krebses in American information security, and one of them is clearly more important than the other. But the question I wanted to ask was to you, Ian, really. So as an observer of geopolitical stuff, particularly around the defense and security and all that kind of thing, what do you think now that Donald Trump is on his way out of the White House, from an information security point of view, or even defense in general, what do you think will change going forward?
Well, I think, to be honest, not much, because it's like trying to turn the Nimitz around in a Panama Canal. 4 years is a lot of damage. There's an international reputation that has been completely trashed. There is a huge divisive group, some 76 million people that voted for Trump, who are not even going to believe the truth, even if you told them the truth, right? There are people in American hospitals denying the fact that they're dying of COVID. All right, this is the extent that America is right now. I agree with Chris Krebs' assessment. I think he did everything right. He had all the right people at the table. I watched in awe in his 60 minutes interview, and I was like, this is a guy that absolutely deserved to get fired because he did not go down the road of politics. He's like patriot. And the fact that he was a lifelong Republican as well should factor into this. And this is what America has reduced itself to, where scientists and information security professionals who are doing the right thing are politically marginalized, and they're told that basically, shut up, we're not interested in your message, and we would prefer untruths than the actual truth of the matter. It's tragic and it's disgusting, and it really, to me, is a massive setback for an America that used to set the standards. I mean, how can they possibly criticize other countries' democratic processes when they've had this shit show? And one of their current president, it's quite possibly will be dragged out of the White House by his hair on the 20th of January. It's embarrassing.
It will detach, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. The hair, not Trump or his policies. But let's just look at this from a fucking different point of view. 7 years ago, 8 years ago, sorry, probably actually more than that now because my time perception is warped due to 2020 and general nonsense. But we were looking at XK score. We were looking at all this shit from Snowden. It was insane. And now we have effectively whatever is on Donald Trump's Twitter feed as our main cybersecurity threat, the QAnon, the Pizzagate and all this bullshit. And it's like, I don't care what the politics are behind it, but what a dramatic shift from going from one of the most advanced, scary and damning revelations, I think, of my lifetime, certainly, to just, hey, there's a pedogate in a pizza parlor somewhere because someone on Reddit told me. That's the kind of level where, fake news. I mean, fake news. Let's not be shit on fake news. It's really, really, really efficient. It's really effective. It does its job. It's very good at spreading disinformation. The disinformation units are very good at what they do. That's why they have a job. And they've affected a lot of change. But going from something scary like XK score, any of that stuff, for the Smurf shit that we heard about, holy crap, to go to, if I just put up a really random picture on Facebook and give Facebook a bunch of money, they're just going to regurgitate lies rather than us actually having to hack into shit and build back doors into stuff. We can just fucking put up lies and someone will go share. Oh yeah, I'll put in my contact details for more information. Oh, you want bank details? Yeah, that's not a problem. I'll donate to the campaign. Here's $2.5 million. That's the shift. It's really fucking jarring for me. I don't know what it's like for you guys.
Yeah, the same. And I agree with that. And I also agree with you I don't know. The optimist in me likes to think that the amount of damage done in the last 4 years can somehow be repaired in the next 4 years. But we all know it's much easier to destroy something than it is to build something. Yeah. So I think that from an outsider's perspective, that would be my primary concern. That, in fact, Biden just simply doesn't have enough time to be able to turn that USS Nimitz around in the Panama Canal, as the analogy that you suggested. But you'd hope that some difference can be made. I guess
I just want to. I'll respond to that quickly. It's a massive undertaking, and it really reminds me almost of where the world needs to do as a result of the COVID. Interestingly enough, some people have likened the current economic damage, which will be in the trillions of dollars, to the post-World War II reconstruction efforts. And I think what a lot of people forget about post-World War II Britain, Europe, even America to a certain extent, the people, all of the people that have been through this are traumatized by it. And so, there is a legitimate concern that the long-term repercussions of COVID pandemic is essentially has been as destructive as the post-traumatic stress disorder that some people suffer as a result of, physical trauma in a war type of setting. And, where we are is very interesting because the burdens, financial especially, are going to be felt by the children of some of the beer farmers here, more so than us old folks. I think we'll be talking about the pandemics of 2020 for a really long time, and I hope that we're far more prepared, that we understand that having a single source of manufacture for all of this personal protection gear. Like, I feel like the lessons learned and the studies that will come out of this experience will prepare us for the future. The real question is whether or not the politicians will answer. And I do feel that this next generation of coming up of politicians, of senators in the United States, of congressmen in the United States, they will embrace this opportunity to rebuild in the post-pandemic and start dealing with the largest elephant in the room, which is global climate change.
Okay. Anybody got anything else to add to that? No, we're good. All right, we're going to cheer up things a little bit, and we're going to talk about some cool stuff. So, Sean, over to you. Talk to us about your recent hobby around petitioning against the removal of, or the inclusion, shall we say, of encryption backdoors.
Virtual round of applause for Sean for doing something amazing. Yay, Sean! Yay!
So I was really surprised when I had a look and there was no petition around this. And this is around the proposed, I put in quotes, backdoors, because they're not using the term backdoor per se in their proposals, but it's like effectively a backdoor. So what they're proposing is some means for law enforcement and others to be able to view data that's transmitted in end-to-end encryption. Now, on paper, their proposals sound fine. They say they support encryption, which is great. They support privacy, they support security, and all of that good stuff, and they don't want to see that go away. It starts becoming a problem when you start delving into some of the wording that safety of civilians should take priority over these security measures. And I get it. You're trying to protect your citizens, and I totally agree and support that. But you're now coming into a realm where you're trying to provide an excuse of breaking down some of these controls around security and privacy. And I can see this turning into suddenly, oh, but this, oh, but that, and we'll use that as an excuse in order to enforce these essentially backdoors. And then the other thing to consider is, in terms of current technology, there's no way to securely do this. The only realm that I can think of is using public key encryption, but even that has so many risks. You have a key that someone has to hold. Who controls access to that key? How do they get it? What happens to that key if it gets compromised? What happens to the key when you finish your investigation? Do they still keep that key? Are they able to still view the data that's transmitted? So all of these things kind of got me to create that petition, and we'll see how far it goes.
How many signatories have you got yet so far, Sean?
I don't know. I haven't looked. The last I looked, it was like under 100.
We have an audience. We have an audience here, so maybe they can all sign your petition. Because I couldn't. I would have loved to do so, but it's only for UK citizens. So
Yeah,
Oh.
that's the
Well,
problem.
it's good because we need an encryption backdoor that can only be accessed in the UK, right?
yeah,
That's how it works. Because if it's from some other country, well, they shouldn't have access to our backdoor.
No one should ever have access to your backdoor, to be fair, Ian.
Yeah.
I just want to point that out.
I don't want
But,
to, Ian.
Like, here's a ridiculous thing, right? I'm
Your
just-
background, Scott. That's a ridiculous thing.
That's the back. That's the back door that everyone.
That's the back door. That is the back door as well.
Oh,
Here's a
but there
ridiculous.
goes our last follower. Bye.
Bye. So if anybody's interested in Sean's petition, please do go and sign it. It's available at beercon.tv/petition. That will direct you directly to Sean's petition. Do you know what? It's almost at 1,000 signatures.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty
Nice.
good.
That's pretty fucking awesome. But here's the stupid thing, and we've had discussions about this, and some of you know my background, some of you don't. It doesn't really matter. But here's the issue. A lot of the excuses that are being used, and they are fucking excuses, they're not good reasons, are stories from like 10 years ago when they're like, oh, if X service had put in this policy, we wouldn't have been able to unlock those messages, and therefore it would have been worse. They're technically right. It's kind of like one of those, you bury a big lie within a small truth, or a small truth within a big lie. Technically, you're correct, but the reason why you knew about it in the first place was one of the parties involved in a crime came to you and said, I'm getting these messages, these are a bit weird, can you look at them? And they've handed over like a physical fucking device to someone who's been able to go through and scan all those messages. And then they're kind of covering that up by going, well, if there was end-to-end encryption, we wouldn't have found that out because it would have been encrypted. No, the person that came to you with the information would have decrypted those messages. And I think there's a couple of laws in UK law, certainly in EU law, you have to give over your decryption keys with passcodes. Biometrics are a bit funny. I think they fall under kind of grey area territory, but you need to give over encryption keys like passwords. They will just throw you in jail if you don't do it, which I don't agree with. But we have this idea of we can absolutely get that data via other means. I'm not keen on sacrificing you. The five of us, we'll just shift to PGP. Like, what are you going to do?
Like, for our own custom Jabber servers.
Exactly. What the fuck are you going to do about it? And that's what the criminals are going to do. Here's the flip side of that, though. My mother, most of my friends that don't really know or care what I do for a living, they're not going to use that. They're the ones that are going to get pwned. They're the ones that are going to get their bank details compromised. They're the ones that are going to get the health records fucked. They're the ones that are going to get stuff that isn't really damaging, but it could totally ruin their lives. It's stuff like, hey, I'm on this particular medication for this particular illness, and I don't want anybody to know about it. That will be public. Because why the fuck not? There's no reason to keep that encrypted anymore because it's free access. I don't think we should entertain the possibility of a backdoor. I've yet to hear a valid reason for backdoors in crypto where the data could not have been gotten by any other means. Now, let's not be kidded before I open it up to everybody else. Every single terrorist attack, terrorism is one thing that keeps getting raised, and pedos, that's the only two things that keep getting raised. Both of which happen either in clear, in the clear net, or over SMS. Every terrorist attack is being conducted, organized, planned, and deployed over SMS, MMS, open protocols that they have access to. And when I say they, I mean the government policing at the moment and the security services. There is no fucking reason to give them more control over that because they weren't using crypto. They were going to blow themselves up or get shot. They didn't give a shit if they were going to get their messages found out because the whole plan was for them to die. They wanted people to know about it. So what's your real reason for it?
I think to play devil's advocate only a bit, it's the kind of planning and all that, not the execution, like you say there, Scott. Person that's got that mobile phone that's got the means of detonating an explosive device, they don't give a shit. They're on their way out pretty soon. But it's the background planning and organization and orchestration, all that kind of thing. But going back to criminals, since criminality became a thing, which was when man first set foot on the earth, right? If you present a challenge, then the immediate reaction is to try and work out a workaround to that challenge. And that's exactly how criminals have always worked. You know, you put up a barrier, they'll figure out a way around it or a way over it or through it or whatever. So just doing this seems to me to be a little bit, a little pointless, actually, in the grand scheme.
I think
Wait, sorry, I just wanted to one thing. Scott talked about this earlier. 2013, Edward Snowden. What's happened? Criminals have moved on to more sophisticated things.
Well, we're actually there's a couple of factors I want to talk about here. So, let's suppose everyone, the UK decided that encryption backdoors are going to happen. Okay, in the UK for UK companies, huge disadvantage for any UK company now that they have to put in a government mandated crypto backdoor, so into their stuff. So it's going to explode. The second factor is, already the UK has been found to have inadequate data protections under the EU Court of Justice, right? So what does it mean? It means that Schrems, after he's dealt with the US, is going to target the UK. And we're going to find that our protections are inadequate, and we will be relegated to requiring model contracts only to shift data. And if model contracts are found invalidated by the Irish Court of Justice, then guess what? The UK is now basically a pariah when it comes to welcoming business. There's a last factor here that I want to discuss because it didn't come out really in Sean's discussion, and Scott, I don't think, really engaged on it, but I want to make the point anyways. I bet you that after the NCA's huge success in taking down EncroChat, which was a heavily OPSEC bunch of cyber criminals that created a secure communications application for criminals only, after they took it down, all right, and got the huge success of some 746 people arrested, $54 million in cash seized, 77 firearms, the government got the bill and went, oh my God, was this takedown expensive? Because what did it require, Scott? It required an awful lot of fucking police work to do. So here's the thing. I think the majority of the backdoor for encryption discussion is around the easy button for law enforcement. Now, here's the problem with the easy button for law enforcement. What it means is that the necessary rules of evidence, procedures, and reasonable doubt is eclipsed by a strict liability where, oh, because we found this chat app that is only used by criminals, therefore you're a criminal idea, it's rubbish. And this to me is like the government basically not understanding that the repercussions of this idea are going to have tremendous effects. You know, from everything that we do, our e-commerce will be a joke. It won't be considered secure. I mean, you can just look at this as the snowball at the top of the hill of encryption that basically rolls down the hill, gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and crushes the IT industry.
Sage words. Sage words. All right, we're going to cover one or two further topics. We're going to move away from backdoors now. I think everybody will be pleased to hear. Let's talk about Bacon 2.
I missed most of it.
Everybody else has been speaking about it, but we've not really mentioned it, have we? Apart from doing it and being there. But that was a bit of fun, wasn't it?
Holy shit.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And
I thought the pub quiz was really exceptional, except for that asshole that kept yelling.
the guy shouting at us from Apocalypse Now Redux.
Flock of seagulls. Yeah.
Man down, medic.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
I put the
disassociated
beer
ourselves.
in beer con.
Yeah, quite, and all the other things, ketamine, etc. But we've disassociated ourselves with the after party quiz. I think.
I
just
think we should
remember-
have it as two separate things. Yes, like the.
Payback's a
But
bitch.
I want to say the thing that I loved about BeerCon too the most, other than being in a wine bar, being in a pub, being on a train again, being in a pub, being in a terrible hotel room in Bournemouth. All of those things were great, but it really did capture the feeling of an actual in-presence physical con for me.
For you, yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Just want to say, job well done.
You did all the socializing on behalf of everybody.
Yeah.
But it was super, really cool, and I think we got out of it everything that we wanted in terms of what we put into it and what we got out of it.
Personal praise, though, for us and our efforts was a little bit light, I've got to say.
That's fine. We're not in it for the love.
I do appreciate the fact that Coffee Fueled has had no less than 4 episodes about BeerCon 2 that he has put together. And I'm telling you, that is a huge legacy. I'm like floored, and people, you know, are still talking about their experience. And, you know, I've had some feedback. We were talking with Zoe and her thoughts on BeerCon 2 and how she was part of the mentorship. I feel like a new generation of cybersecurity professionals has been launched into the conference scene. I just hope they have lots of money and remember us fondly.
That never happens in show business.
No, it doesn't.
You help people on the way up, and then when they're at the top, they, oh, who are you again? I don't remember you.
Yeah, that was my experience with the Spice Girls.
Yeah, mine too, actually. Well, at least 3 of them. But yeah, true story. But yeah, are we still on air? Sorry, are we still on air?
We've been banned. That's the problem.
Damn. But it was great. You know, we had an agenda. The agenda wasn't a hidden agenda or a dark agenda. The agenda was to simply give an opportunity and a platform to people that otherwise miss an opportunity to speak. And the idea was that there were going to be people new to speaking, and not importantly, not people necessarily new to the information security industry, but people who may have been around for quite a few years but had never done any public speaking outside of maybe their own company or just never done it before. And that was the opportunity that we helped provide people, and it worked really well. And you know, the mentors did a great job, super job. You know, they breathed confidence into the speakers and made it a lot easier for them on the day to do the work. And it does have a legacy because it's those 3 in. You had to do that, didn't you? Never mind. No, you can keep your head where it is. Yep, those 3. But yeah, and so the legacy is the fact that they're going forward now and they're doing their own thing, and they're now involved in other chats and conferences and, you know, local meetups and things like that. They've got the confidence to go ahead and do it. And you know, a couple of questions were asked recently. Would they go on and speak again? 100%. They'd go away and do it again. Would they even organize their own conferences? A couple of people said absolutely. Now I know how easy it is, and the fact that Beer Farmers didn't have to put any effort in whatsoever to make it a success, then anybody can do it. All right.
Wait. Didn't put any effort in. Excuse me.
That's why I left a little.
Do you want me to turn off my virtual background and show you how much effort I'm still putting into the damn conference?
So it was great, and there is a little bit of work left to do, which is around getting the swag out to people that participated in the conference. Scott, quick update on that.
Yeah, more or less everything's arrived. I will turn off my virtual background for the people that are watching on Twitch. Apart from my lovely office, I am greeted with a mountain of boxes actually behind me. I tried to make a throne out them the other night, you know, kind of like Game of Thrones style, but Game of BeerCon. Fell off it twice, but I tried. But no, I've been packing, shipping, getting people's addresses. Do you know what? It's the easiest thing in the world. Our industry is focused on like privacy, security and stuff. The minute you say to them, hey, I've got some stickers and a t-shirt, they're like, here's my fucking address and this is my size and this is what I want. And they're like, yeah, send me 10. That's great. So that was easy. But no, it's been I am absolutely and utterly blown away. I've never been to a conference. Conferences I've keynoted, conferences I've seen amazing people keynote or amazing speakers be at, or met people that have turned into lifelong friends. I've yet to find a conference from memory or a conference online where someone's like, oh, you had to be there. It was the best thing ever. That still is positive now, and everybody, I mean, we got a tiny bit of shit from a couple of people about some random bullshit that didn't even happen. Fine, it's the internet. People are going to complain about some bullshit. The amount of positivity, the amount of people that are like, holy shit, this is fun. And we brought that to them. The whole thing just makes me smile every time. I'm super proud. Every time I hear one of the speakers on the coffee house sessions or anywhere really talking about, or they're still sharing, all the speakers are still sharing their talks on LinkedIn or Twitter. Hey, come watch my talk from like 2 months ago or a month ago now. Like, hey, just come watch my talk again. Holy shit. I mean, BeerCon 1 I think I shared the recording of that once in the last year and a half. No offense, it's just because, well, why do I really want to big myself up? But these guys are like, hey, share my talk, or go and see this other person's talk. That's fucking cool. I can't remember whether it's you or Sean that actually came up with the idea, though. Was it Sean?
It's usually Sean that takes all of the credit for ideas. So let's not change the habit.
What?
I just agreed. I was sitting in the toilet at the time. You were like, hey, what do you think about this? I'm like, yeah, fine, whatever. Just go for it. I don't care. Go away.
I think we were talking about the idea of how sad it is that people are not getting the chance to speak at conferences this year, particularly rookies. So I think we were all talking about it in our team chat thing. And I don't know. Sean, if you want to take credit for it, then it won't be the first time. And I'm sure it won't be the last time. The main thing is that I take the Bitcoin. I don't mind. Oh, that's fair.
The ironic thing is, I was on holiday for a week, and I said to myself, you know what? I'm not going to do any work. I'm not going to do anything. And there we go. Start planning out a conference.
What always happens with us is we come up with a germ of an idea. And then it goes mental, right? It becomes not the small idea that we originally planned it to be, which was easily manageable and we could do it in an hour. We kind of go a little bit bananas, don't we? And that little idea we had suddenly becomes a monster idea.
But hang on. This isn't just us that are at fault, though. People reached out to us saying, I want to mentor for this. Give me the opportunity. In fact, they didn't even give us the chance. They just said, I'm doing this. You better be aware. Like, cool. They wanted to be involved as much as like everybody. So massive props to them. So I think they're responsible for growing arms and legs, not just us.
Completely agree. And when we went public with it to begin with, and it was patently clear to anybody that read our tweets that it was not a self-promoting project by any means. It was all about other people. You can't fail to get behind an idea like that. The difference between BeerCon 1 and BeerCon 2 is the motivation. So BeerCon 1 was about, again, a little germ of an idea that went explosive. But the motivation behind that was more around charity and raising money for good causes and things. And we went from an idea that would take an hour to an idea that took 26.5 hours. And then with BeerCon 2, different story entirely. It was nothing to do with raising money for charity. It was about giving exposure to people that were unknown to many people in the industry. But that idea does, like you say, it does take its own shape once people understand it and what the motivation is behind it. It makes it really easy, actually, to certainly promote it and get people to come along to it. Then all we've got to do is facilitate it, make it happen. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. BeerCon 3, Rise of the Beer Farmers is what we're going to be doing next year.
Rise of Heavenly Biscuit.
Yep, with the Beer Farmers and Dr. Heavenly Biscuit, I think is what I'm thinking of calling it.
Did it get a fucking honorary PhD or did it get an actual PhD?
It's got to be honorary. But we're going to work out payment methods and all that kind of stuff. We'll get that all out on Twitter before the end of the year. Bitcoin or Ethereum, whatever people want to give us money using. But yeah, Rise of the Beer Farmers. A wicked tale of 5 guys and their passion for the information security industry and desire to become stinking rich. So look out for more information about that coming out.
I think really honestly, we may take the podcast in a new direction and maybe turn it into an awards pub quiz. Yeah.
Awards.
And,
Awards.
yeah,
Yes,
awards.
please. More awards. We don't have enough yet.
We don't. And yeah, it'll be some interesting categories too. I may come up with a few unique ones.
Well, that's going to be our thing that we do in our end of year podcast. So when we come back to do Mashed at the end of the year, which is not that far away. So let's look at that in terms of date. So it will be, it's not going to be on New Year's Eve. I can tell you that for now.
No, fuck it. Live stream New Year's Eve. Come on, you gotta do that.
We have nothing better to do, so
that's a good point. We're not going to be out at a fireworks display or anything like that, are we? But in the final week of the year, we will be reflecting on 2020 again. But we will have an awards ceremony, and yeah, you should look out for that because it's going to be pretty cool.
By the way, did Scott Helm post a picture with the fluffy dice yet?
Never. No.
Damn.
But we do have a picture of us breaking into his car and stealing them out of the boot. Because that's where he put them, never to be used. So yeah, but we're going to do that. We're going to do an awards thing. It'll all be around great things that have happened over the last year or two, perhaps.
Yeah. Best rip off of information security professionals content.
Yeah,
that will be a very popular one. About 40 nominees already.
I think so. We've got the most deserving blue tick winner.
Indeed.
Best selfie.
Best selfie. Yep.
Best independent research debunked by Sean.
Yep. Best animal picture that is not human.
Animal noises.
Oh yeah, you definitely win that one. Lowest level troll that is just batshit insane and should just be shot in the face.
I got an idea. What if we get people to nominate award ideas? So we don't.
No, Sean, I'm going to stop you right there. No information security awards is actually done in an open way. Okay. The best thing about the awards is they're all decided in advance by us. Okay.
Yeah.
No.
That's how it works.
Right.
Sorry, that's how it works.
No, hang on. If anybody wants to be that particular or you want to win an award, send 20 Bitcoin to this address. It's about to be dropped in the chat. We may figure something out with you.
We can work it out. But we've got plenty of categories and we've also got a really dark sense of humor and we're going to offend a few people. So look out for that.
We're going to offend a few people when the swag box is hit. So
that's true. So right, listen, we've now run at 90 minutes and we've said plenty. We hope you enjoyed it. We will see you again in around about a month's time. So thanks for tuning in. Take care, people.
Bye.
Bye.
#verify John.